Welcome to NocBro Nation.
Welcome back, guys. Jarrell here.
And I'm Josh, and today we're here to discuss The Walking Dead, the Commonwealth story, comic book storyline, and could this mean, if assuming the show takes it over, could this mean an Endgame for the show?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big comic book storyline, guys, so spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't read the comics. It's not really spoilers anymore. The end of the comic has been over a year now, but anybody who's starting to read the comics and don't want to know about it just yet, and to anyone who's new who doesn't read the comics, we'll give you the information of who the Commonwealth is and what the storyline could be about. Yeah,
and for anyone that doesn't want to get spoiled on possible storylines for the show, you know, stop, come back. But let's talk about the Commonwealth. Where we leave in the show leads into the Commonwealth comic book storyline. Mm-hmm. That is Eugene and crew going out to meet the lady on the radio, Stephanie. Mm-hmm. That happened in the source material as well. Now, the source material, they go out to a train yard and they actually they meet this Commonwealth, but not Stephanie. Stephanie was not there.
Right.
They are confronted with a number of serious soldiers from the Commonwealth.
Badass dudes.
Yeah, and this leads into the whole Commonwealth storyline arc, which happens to be the last arc for the comic book.
And that's one thing we're talking about. Is there going to be an end game? We know season 11 is renewed. It's going to be massively delayed due to COVID-19. There's rumors that we may not get a season 12, even though the execs have said we got plenty of, even though the comics are ending, you know, the storyline ending, so to speak, we still have a lot of stories to tell, which you do, but you're also in the 10th season of a show. When you're around that long, a lot of shows don't last too much longer. Now, take out like other shows that have lasted, like The Simpsons and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like those are different types of shows.
There's CSI.
Yeah, I mean, those are different types of shows.
The thing about those is that they don't have an overall story that they're trying to tell. Like some of those shows will go into individual episodes that have nothing to do with each other. They don't connect.
Right. Yeah.
And this show obviously connects with every episode that happens. So they're telling a story. Now, is that story coming to an end?
We're still up in the air. I feel that it probably will. They could probably, depending on how they take season 11, they could easily take a big chunk of the Commonwealth and roll it into season 12. They could definitely do that because they can also expand on it. They don't have to go panel for panel from the comics. They can easily expand on it and make things up as they go, you know, change things around, which they do all the time. So, you know, would it really, is this, but to get back to the point is this storyline going to be the last?
And let's talk about that. Who is the Commonwealth?
Who is the Commonwealth, guys? So, firstly, the Commonwealth isn't a hostile enemy force like the Saviors or the Whisperers. How it's been run behind the scenes is a little shady, which we'll get into, but its core is not a hostile environment. The Commonwealth is a network of communities centered in Ohio, which was in the comics, that holds about 50,000 people in total.
That's huge.
It's huge. Now, the Commonwealth has better technology, better systems of farming and manufacturing in place, but it does have an arcane class hierarchy, which means a person's social status and rank in the Commonwealth is based off their skills, profession, and social class that they previously had to the fall, prior to the fall of the apocalypse.
Absolutely.
Basically, there are nobles and there are peasants.
Absolutely. So one prime example of what Jarrell just went over was Michonne. Michonne, before the apocalyptic event, was a lawyer. When she came upon, again, this is spoilers, so if you don't want to know any of this, please turn away. But in the source material, when she discovered or came to the Commonwealth, she was immediately placed into this high class because she was a lawyer in a previous life.
Yep. And in some of the panels, you got to see that. You got to see people living in nice, cool quarters, you know, luxuries all over the place, and others are living in, I wouldn't say squalor, but lower income housing, you could say.
Bakeries, street jobs,
janitors, things like that.
To be honest, I always thought the story in the source material could have been done a little bit better. Like, we could have gotten a lot more details on the Commonwealth that we really didn't in the source material. Now, maybe that's just the medium, it being a comic book.
Yeah.
But, you know.
You find out a little bit more on the Wikipedia pages where they give a little more detail. So, the Commonwealth does have a leader, and that leader is a former politician named Pamela Milton, who has been given the title of Governor Milton of the Commonwealth. She has an adult son named Sebastian, and also had a daughter who is currently deceased. Now, she does have a right man in charge. She has a deputy of the Commonwealth named Lance Hornsby. Now, there isn't much to Lance's prior life to what we know from the comics, but due to his high ranking and being a deputy, he was probably a high-class person, maybe had a good-paying job. We really don't know.
He also looks like Negan.
He does look like a crazy, clean-shaved, like, younger version of Negan. It's insane. I'll put that up in here. But Lance Horsby comes into play during Eugene when Josh mentioned earlier when our group goes to the rail yard. They are met by the Commonwealth soldiers, and it's Lance Hornsby who interviews them, who questions them. Why are you here? What are you doing here? And Eugene is very anxious. He's like, he demands, I want to see Stephanie. I want to see Stephanie. So then Lance escorts them to the Commonwealth. They see the Commonwealth in all its glory, and they do eventually meet Stephanie. So
yeah, now there are other storylines that happen when they get to the Commonwealth that we could honestly do another video on that. Who could possibly get that storyline?
Yeah, we could definitely do that.
It's mixed up a little bit. But yeah, so now that we've talked about the Commonwealth, how does that play into the world of The Walking Dead, the show? And one immediate question is Georgie.
And Maggie.
And Maggie, yeah. Who we met Georgie in season 8?
Season 8.
Yep,
yeah,
end of season 8, right?
End of season 8, yeah. So, I mean, that was one big thing. When we first met Georgie, Jane Atkinson, we immediately thought, oh my God.
When you saw her.
Short hair, I mean, Pamela Milton didn't have glasses, but just the resemblance of her, and a lot of other YouTubers did videos as well, like, they're introducing the Commonwealth this early? Oh my God. But, you know, this character named Georgie is not from the comic books. We know that Maggie is with Georgie, but what capacity is Georgie, and does she have any affiliation with the Commonwealth, or is Georgie a re-envisioned person? What am I trying to say? Re-envisioned character of Pamela Milton. Maybe she is part of the Commonwealth.
Remixed.
A remix version, because a lot of people are saying, well, Georgie is going around to all these towns and cities giving them a book called A Key to the Future. Now, that is more on the CRM's philosophy, and the Commonwealth and CRM, it's already been noted that they have nothing to do with each other. CRM is not going to have any more parts of the Walking Dead show. It's going to be for World Beyond and the Rick movies. But, yes, Georgie wants to help these communities. Maggie has been helping these communities. But is Georgie just a road name? But she give the name Georgie, but she really is Pamela Milton? Or
is Georgie her middle name?
Is Georgie her middle name? Yeah, we really don't know.
Or is Georgie an assistant to the governor? Will she maybe be mixed up into Lance's role, and we might and Lance might be given a different job on the show? Yeah. It's really, I don't know. I'll tell you one thing. While we're talking about the Commonwealth, I really don't want to see it the 50,000 strong. Like, I don't want to see this huge.
Well, in the comics, we never really saw 50,000. They just said it.
We got to... Dude, there was a stadium.
There was a football stadium. We didn't see everyone in there, but we did see a lot of people around. And there was also another community kind of towards like...
Greenwich?
Greenwich, I think, around a lake or something like that. Yeah. And they weren't a big community either. But, of course, in the comics, I mean, we're not going to see, like, like we do with the Whisperers and the Hordes, like, 50,000, we didn't get to see that. So we're just taking Kirkman on his word that there's 50,000 people.
Absolutely, yeah. I just say that because I don't want to see that, because we have a CRM community that is tied to this universe that is very massive. Yeah. So I just don't want to see a Commonwealth out there that is massive in the comic book storyline. I'd like them to remix that. And I don't know how they will.
Yeah, and I mean, I want... Georgie was a very intriguing character, and I hope that this isn't just a one-off character that we never see again.
Absolutely.
I'd be very disappointed by that. Yeah. So, because of... We know that Maggie is with her, we're hoping that it's not just Maggie that... I mean, it might just be Maggie returning in the finale, but maybe in Season 11 they can expand on this. Maybe she sends word to George that everything's fine, everything's cool, come on out, and then Georgie comes out, and maybe she is part of Commonwealth, and it starts that storyline again. Yep. Or it could be a completely different community that Maggie was with, has no affiliation to the Commonwealth. Or maybe if Georgie's community is not directly in the Commonwealth, it could be one of the Commonwealth's communities.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
technically they are part of them, but
I
not
got the
fully
sense
yet.
when we first met Georgie that this was a rogue individual, meaning she does not have a home. She does not have a settlement. This is someone that strictly
lives out of the van.
Realized what this apocalyptic event did and is only trying to re-salvage and rebuild this society. Right. And that's why she had that book. Yeah. So she is simply going around teaching communities that she finds how to build back up and survive.
Which is great, but it's also sad to think, like, wouldn't you think that she would then build her own community?
Not
that we don't know of.
And that might just go to the person she is. That leads to, I think, in my opinion, more mystery to Georgie.
It does.
Because now you're like, what did she go through that really made her say, I don't want to be in a community, but I want to teach others how to live?
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, there has to be a community where Maggie was, because letters were getting to her. So they had to go to one specific point that was at a
well, they had drop offs.
They had to travel, of course.
You know
so it's
that.
Like
because they had the box that Maggie in the teaser in the ground. So they had drop points.
Drop points, but who knows how far they had to travel to get there. So you could be right. They could be, you know, Maggie and them could be on the road. Maybe they have like a little settlement of their own that they just hang out in, close to the proximity of these dropout points.
Yeah, because these drop points have to be focal points, right? They have to be, you know, permanent points for Hilltop and members to deposit those letters.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
They gotta have some type of significance, like a big rock or a big oak tree or something like that. I don't know. But guys, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting what they do with this story arc. Now, to be honest, being comic book readers, and I'm sure others will agree with us and maybe not, but this story arc in the comics, it wasn't great.
It wasn't great.
We got some really good reveals. We won't go into it at the moment, but some really good stories and some reveals for some characters. But the overall story for the Commonwealth with the governor, it was kind of lackluster, to be honest. It felt, because we know that it was the end of the comics, it felt rushed.
It did feel very rushed.
You know?
And we're speaking about an Endgame here. I was more intrigued with the final issue of the story, the source material, of how that led into possible future storylines.
Yes.
Like, there was so much in that final book that, honestly, the show could take that material and run with it and probably have multiple seasons after that just with that material.
Because in the final issue, guys, the story jumped 20 years. The timeline jumped 20 years. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff they left out and they could easily expand on. So the six issue primary Commonwealth story arc, it was okay. There were some aspects of it that were really cool, but all in all, it wasn't great. So I'm excited to see what the writers of The Walking Dead can do to expand upon that, give a little more background to certain characters if they use these characters. If they use, they don't have to use Pamela Milton. They could use Georgie, or they could have another name for this. Maybe not even call him a governor. They can just call him some type of leader or something like that. But, I mean, to be honest, it would be interesting if they kept the social class hierarchy, just to see how our survivors respond to that. You know, they see Daryl, you're a fighter. What did you do in the apocalypse? Like,
well, Daryl
he didn't do much.
Was a redneck.
He was a redneck. He didn't do much. But
we don't think we ever got.
I don't think we
done for a living.
No, I don't think we did.
So I mean, let's assume that he didn't do much. So Daryl would literally probably be the lowest of the low in the
Which
Commonwealth.
He wouldn't care. The dude loves sleeping outside.
No, yeah, I mean, he wouldn't care.
If he joined them.
But the question is,
for
all that he's learned from Rick, would he be okay with that?
Would he be okay with it? Yeah. So, and we're not going to get into in this video because of the characters we have now in the show, who we don't have from the comics and the story arc. There's so many different characters that could take these stories that it could work really good if they do it. It could be bad, but it could really work. Yeah. But we're excited to see what this key to the future with Georgie. Is she part of this Commonwealth? Is The Walking Dead coming to an end game with the comic book source material running out? We'll have more videos on this, but I think it's probably going to get there.
If I had to guess, I'd have to say season 12 is probably going to be the last season.
Yeah, because I know a lot of you from our last...
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I know a lot of you mentioned when we did our last video about who could die in the finale, and we mentioned Carol, and a lot of people were like, no, it's not Carol because she has a 3-year deal signed. Well, both Norman and Melissa have 3-year deals, but it's not specific to the main show. It's AMC and The Walking Dead, yeah. But if they want to do spin-offs and movies, they're in that deal. So it's not truly specific to the main show.
I mean, guys, I'd love for the season or for the series to go on indefinitely. I'm a firm believer that they should take those storylines that were not elaborated on in the final issue and run with those. Like there was a whole Western Eastern Alliance thing. This was 2 parts of the country that are coming together, kind of like the Transcontinental Railroad back in the 1800s. I could be wrong. Yeah. But it's examples like that where that kind of story just leads and fuels into multiple stories. And I'm a firm believer that they should run with that and expand that.
Yeah, they definitely should. So let us know what you think in the comments. Do you think Season 11 or Season 12 could be the end game for you comic book readers? We would definitely love to know your thoughts on some different variations of the story they could do. Make sure you guys subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified, smash the like button, and stay tuned for more. I am Jarrell.
I'm Josh.
We're NocBro Nation.
We're out.